Oh, goody.
Alright, what's going on everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So in this one we are taking a look at some day 1 decks for Nico Minoru, today's new card. Nico is a very unique card as she has a bunch of different abilities, so you're going to have a lot of different experiences with this card depending on which ability is active during any given turn that you play it. So Nico is a 1-cost 2-power that reads on reveal after you play your next card, cast a spell. The spell changes each turn. We can see the list of all 7 available spells here, and they are all on reveal effects that say after you play your next card, you can turn it into a demon, destroy it and draw 2, move it 1 location to the right, give it +2 power, replace that card's location, add a copy of it to your hand, or double this card's power. So a lot of variety here with the effects, but definitely some strong ones that'll be interesting to try and optimize. Worth noting with Nico's effect, it changes every single turn. So if you bounce it, even if it's still in the deck, it's going to be changing what the effect is every turn. And more importantly, it cannot hit the same effect twice. So if you've already seen it have the destroy a card and draw 2, you're not going to see that pop up again during any of the other turns. But yeah, I think this card's really neat. I think the main place it's going to find a home in is Thanos decks. Thanos decks have a lot of stones, which you can get value from just drawing, and then get even more value with one of Nico's effects, like turning it into a demon, drawing 2. Just seems like a really naturally synergistic card with what Thanos is trying to do, and the low cost allows us to easily fit it into an early turn curve. In terms of the Spotlight caches this week, Nico is a Series 5, so that always makes it a bit better. If you want to open your caches going for her, usually a bit more value going for the Series 5 cards. The other cards in this week are Kitty Pryde and the Phoenix Force. Overall, I think this is one of the better weeks for the month. All Series 5 cards here, and all cards that are arguably rather meta-relevant. Obviously, Kitty, really big meta player right now alongside Elsa. Phoenix Force is a bit less popular, but is still a rather powerful deck right now. And then for Nico, like I mentioned, I think Thanos decks are going to be the main shell for her, but I do think she also has some potential in the Phoenix Force or Destroy lists, so we'll take a look at those in just a minute. But I think this is a pretty decent card worth going for. It's definitely hard to say if it's going to be super strong or not, as it has much more variance than any other normal card we've gotten in quite a while. So cards like this are always hard to evaluate, but I think there's a lot of potential here, especially if you like the aforementioned archetypes. So I'm going to be picking this one up, and it's definitely, if nothing else, a fun card and potential to be a good card. So I think it's going to be a cool one to grab. So starting out, we have Thanos. Thanos has been making a bit of a resurgence recently, been a pretty decent deck overall, and it's one that Nico slots into rather well. This is the control Thanos style of deck, so we do have a bunch of really powerful 5-drops that we're often trying to cheat out as early as turn 4 with things like Psylocke and our Time Stone. So whether that be Blue Marvel to go wide, Dino to go tall, X to close down a lane, or just Vision to move around the board and potentially get a Elsa Bloodstone buff. A lot of good options here. Alioth helps us close out the game, especially if we can lock down a lane with Professor X. Iron Lad has a plethora of good hits here. Even if he hits a stone, it's not the worst thing in the world, but there are some very powerful hits here as well. Mobius helps keep things like Loki and other cost reduction decks in check. Jeff, a lot of flexibility, good with Professor X and Elsa, and then Nico seems like a card that's easy to weave in on the earlier turns of the game and can help us extract a lot more value from one of our Thanos stones. Overall, this is probably the deck I think is going to be the best of the bunch, as Thanos has already proven to be pretty strong in the current meta, and Nico seems like a natural inclusion for this deck style. If you want to go in a bit of a different direction with Thanos, we have a Thanos Zoo list here. So this one is more focused on a lower curve, but we're trying to flood the board with a lot of cheap cards, then buff them up with things like Blue Marvel and Khazar. And we have some tech card inclusions here to help swing a lane unexpectedly from an opponent. So whether that is something like Shadow King or Shang-Chi, just some way to take a lot of power out of an opponent's lane unexpectedly to help close out the game. Other than that, we're just kind of board swarming here, buffing up our board. And what I really like about this style of deck is the ability to go wide, so your opponent never really knows which lanes you're going to be putting most of your power in, as you can fairly effectively fight for all 3 lanes. Elsa naturally going to be pretty good here in a deck that is focused on flooding the board. Luke Cage prevents us from getting hit by our own Shadow King or opposing Shadow Kings, keep our Elsa buff nice and intact. and Mobius Jeff, just generically good 2-drops right now. Nightcrawler, been really good with Elsa. Ant-Man, naturally good in a deck that's trying to fill up a bunch of slots on the board. Next up is the Phoenix Force deck, and the idea with this one is Nico having that destroy effect adds some nice redundancy for being able to blow up our multiple man or Human Torch when we need to, and worst case, it's just another thing we can use as a generally versatile effect, or it can even just be some destroy fodder to help pump up things like our Carnage or Venom. Even if she's just turning one of the cards we don't need for our combo into a demon, pretty decent stats for cost there. And I think the added flexibility really helps with the redundancy that a deck like this needs. Another cool thing with Nico is with the destroy effect that actually can enable you to blow up the Nimrods 3 times on the final turn with a combination of Nico, Carnage, and then either Venom or Deathlock. It's been cool to see the Phoenix Force deck doing pretty well recently, and I think Nico is a very natural fit into this style of deck. And last but not least, we have a pretty dedicated destroy deck. So Nico, obviously with the destroy effect, really good for redundancy, and it's also decent at just getting value out of some of our other cheaper cards like X-23, Squirrel Girl, and Yondu. Also acts as more fuel, not just for our regular destroy cards, but also for our null and our death, making a bigger null and a cheaper cost death, which is always nice. I think for a while, the destroy deck has been lacking on some key 1-drops that can just be decent destroy fodder, and the fact that Nico will occasionally give us another destroy effect is really, really valuable. The other effect from this card that I think is super strong in a deck like this is the redundancy of being able to add another copy of one of our key cards to our hand. Destroy really values redundancy, and being able to get another Venom or another Carnage when we need it can be really, really powerful. Squirrel Girl has been nice in this deck as she is very good at fighting for priority, so that way if you happen to run into a deck packing some counters like Armor and Cosmo, she's usually pretty good at setting yourself up so you will get your destroy effect off before your opponent is able to play their counter card. The rest of the deck, pretty common destroy includes Wolverine for a bit of payoff, and the destroy core of Killmonger, Venom, Deathlock, and Carnage for all our good destroy effects. Zola's really nice, especially with X-23, as you can cheat out it or null a turn earlier, and then be able to play 2 6-drops that are both very impactful. Zola also especially good with a big Venom, or just as a way to play around opposing Alioths. And even though Mobius is still a really popular card, I think Death is still worth running in this list. However, you could go for a bit of a different approach if you want to find space for like Deadpool and Forge in place of something like Squirrel Girl and Yondu. That could also be something worth considering as well. And there we have it. That is going to wrap it up for our Day 1 Nico Minoru decks. Let me know what you think about this card in the comments below. And as always, I will have links to the decks in the video description if you want to import them into the game to try out yourself. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.